Welcome to I Change the Narrative, a podcast for and about Black men, inspiring, supporting, and empowering Black men and Black boys. Today's topic is lessons in Black manhood. Before we get started with the conversation, I want our guests to tell us about themselves and the work that they are involved in that lends itself to the topic and the lived experience. Starting with Steve.
So good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're listening in from. My name is Stephen Powell. I am the Chief Programs and Partnerships Officer at the National Cares and Mentoring Movement, which is the nation's foremost leader in the recruitment, training, and deployment of African-American mentors, also building holistic, trauma-engaged, culturally anchored programming and group mentoring around the country in 58 cities and 26 states. Was born in Newark, New Jersey, raised in East Orange. And I would say that in terms of the topic of manhood and how it intersects with my work, manhood is a central part of our conversation when we're recruiting men to become mentors and really unpacking some of what those barriers might be to work with our young boys, looking at it from the lens of a rites of passage. And then from a personal standpoint, it's a deeply important conversation to me because I lost my father at the age of 5. And because of those men who stood in the gap in my community, I was able to find that space in the rites of passage. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we move forward. But thank you for having me.
No problem. Thank you.
My name is Tony Elaine. I'm the Student Conduct Administrator for the Community College of Baltimore County. I've worked with young men over 20 years. I've actually had a mentoring program in 2 middle schools in Baltimore City. Pretty much the young brothers that were cast out of the class because of behavioral issues. Me and my business partner, we would work with these young brothers, and we followed these young brothers from middle school all the way up to college. We worked with the Mayor's Office for Children, Youth, and Families during that time in the early 2000s. And I'm really very excited to be on this platform. I'm very honored to be amongst these brothers talking about a topic that is near and dear to me because, I have 4 young brothers, sons myself. I call them my young warriors. And I'm always trying to help them navigate these waters of life. And I know that, after a while, my voice, the frequency of that volume begins to die down. And it's brothers like yourselves that may encounter my young warriors, man, and try to help them go the right path. And it truly takes a village. So I'm very honored to be here.
Thank you.
Good afternoon and good morning, everyone. My name is Donald Williams. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, and I'm a father, a husband, father of 3 children, a husband as well. And I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an artist, I'm a personal trainer, and I'm a chancellor of a school called Action School of Prophets as well. And I also engage with the body of Christ a lot and raise up leaders for the marketplace as well. My perspective on this discussion has everything to do with ending the trajectory of the 3rd and 4th grade slump, disrupting that pipeline that the system has created for Black boys to, matriculate to the penal system. So I have a personal vendetta and a personal agenda for this conversation, and I'm glad to share with you all.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Go ahead, Joe. You got it. Go ahead, Joe.
Okay, no problem. I'm Joe Buchanan, originally from Baltimore, Maryland. I'm a husband, a father. I am a government employee, a musician, and a coach. Just here today to kind of lend my ear and also provide some thoughts and context, as well as, learn something, because I feel like, you should always be able to learn something from, the brothers that are around. So great to be here.
Thank you.
All right, I guess I'm bringing up the rear then. Good afternoon, gentlemen. My name is Armand Burnett. I'm a native of Macon, Georgia. Here I am, the Assistant Director of Parks and Recreation here. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm the Assistant Director of Parks and Recreation here, where we have a population of about 155 to 160 residents, heavily African-American populated. So I have a chance in my occupation to deal with youth on a daily basis through recreation. I'm also a coach. I'm a basketball coach. I was a collegiate basketball player. Now I'm a coach of young men starting at the age of 5th and 6th grade and taking them all the way up to 12th grade as far as coaching and mentoring them through the game of basketball. So, and also I'm a minister of the gospel here in Macon, Georgia as well. I'm an associate minister at St. John Baptist Church here in Macon, Georgia. So I'm just here to, add some fuel to the conversation as well. I was a person who grew up without a father, and I didn't use that as a crutch in my life. So I'm here to just bring up the conversation of, some of the things that I did in my life that being brought up with a single mother, what I did to actually build on my manhood as I grew through life. So thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you. So glad to have you all on the show, and we thank you for being invested in the cause. I felt that this was an important conversation because I am a believer in the philosophy, each one teach one. And since we live in a world where systems react more harshly to Black boys and Black men, I was hoping to have dialogue with you about your self-discoveries and how you navigated through Black manhood and in life, because what you share may help to curb the mishaps of those that come behind you, as well as even those men who walk in similar shoes as you. So let's begin the conversation. What are some of the lessons that you've all reflected on? I know you had some time to reflect. What are some of the lessons that you have learned being a Black man? Anyone can go for it.
I'll tell you, I'll jump right in, Renika. When we connected about a year and a half ago and you told me what you were doing with iChangeTheNarrative, and then listening to all of these brilliant brothers on here, one important lesson that I think we are all carrying is that we control the narrative more than we think. A big lesson is that we are constantly trying to portray and tell the world a corrective narrative about who we are. And a big part of that is dispelling this myth that Black fathers are not as active as they are, when we prove to be the most active of all groups. And no matter whether we're in our faith communities, whether we're in our homes as husbands and fathers, that is a big lesson, because deconstructing and really getting to the truth about who we are is a big problem, right? When you look at what's happening in our school systems, we are actually trying to unlearn before we can learn new things. And so I think that we are in a perpetual state of learning. Just as the brother said, coming on here, we're teaching, but we're also learning. Mm-hmm. And I think one, if I had to talk about a critical lesson in terms of what our young men have to understand, is that I think the managing of anger, right? Because there's not a Black man on this planet who shouldn't be angry about what has happened to us historically, via in schools, through policy, in the workplace. We have every right to be angry, but trying to find that area of peace. And I think that's what brings me to the restorative work that the National Cares Mentoring does, because we create safe spaces, right? And when we talk about manhood, we are almost conditioned to not open up, to not cry, to not say certain things, right? So I think to be able to release that, to be in a space, as you said, hey, this is going to be like a barbershop conversation. The beautiful thing about a barbershop, it's like the male Wakanda, right? You can get in there, you can be what you want to be. You can talk about sports, you can talk about politics, you can talk about religion. We can unpack all those things because it's really our safe space. It's our compassionate space. It's our place of power in a world that constantly strips that away from us.
Absolutely. Anyone can comment.
One of the greatest lessons I've learned was when I went to the African American Museum in Washington, D.C., and I was able to tour all 4 floors in that museum. And I think it finally dawned on me in a very significant way how great we are as overall in general, but overall as a Black community. When I think it was the fourth floor when I saw the many achievements and accomplishments of some of the greatest athletes, of some of the greatest poets, some of the greatest authors, some of the greatest contributors to the entire United States and abroad. And that right there turned my life and turned my understanding around as to really who we are as Black community. So I learned that we're very brilliant. Given the greatest adversity any human race has ever experienced on the face of this planet, Black people have literally changed the United States around. No other race has ever done that. No other men has ever done that. There's something very significant and something very beautiful, something powerful about each and every Black man that it makes me wonder, why do white supremacists want to kill Black men? Because we're so great. We have the ability and some abilities that they do not have. There's something mysterious about us as well that cannot be defined, and I'm still discovering that today. But there's got to be something significant. There's got to be something special about the Black community and about the Black experiences that causes us to do what we do in the United States of America.
I guess I'll jump in right after Donald here. I like what you said about us being brilliant, and I'll also say that our resilience in all senses of the word, we're able to just adapt to multiple situations. If you look at, I think everyone who kind of introduced themselves, they're operating in more than one environment. And some of the environments that we operate in, we have to kind of code switch, and that's kind of been our thing since we were brought here, right? So, do we really know, the beginning of our family line, same way that some of our counterparts that are of a different race may know theirs? And I would argue we don't. But even with us not knowing those roots, we were able to adapt and kind of build our own language and our own. And when I say language, I'm not talking about English or I'm talking about language in the sense of maybe the way we talk to each other, understood nonverbal cues that black people have. So it's a beautiful thing. So the resilience is really a piece, and that's something that I really learned throughout my life, is just how to be resilient as a Black man.
And I just want to piggyback off the other brothers on here. One thing that I know I've learned to do in this process is once I identified my calling and what I was called to do, I became someone who's in the community that is looked to as a person that, this person is somebody that can mentor and can talk to the kids and whatever they need to do or whatever route they're going in their lives. It doesn't have to be sports. It can be entrepreneurship or anything like that. But once you identify that calling, it's no limits to the power that we all have within us. So that's one important thing that I want all of our young men to know, that you have to, once you identify that calling and find your passion, you're unstoppable.
Absolutely.
I think one of the lessons that I think is really at the center of just my life, man. I had to listen to these old cats, man. These old cats know a little something. Man, you don't know what you talk about, man. You ain't living this life. You don't know what you don't know none of this. And I had to learn, man, the power of listening. With my job, man, I have to listen to all the students when they're getting caught up, when they've gone the wrong way, and I have to listen to them. And I start off with them, man, like, look, man, I know you looking at me like I'm this dude and I'm trying to tell you how to live your life, live your best life, and all I'm trying to do is really get you to assess your steps and assess the environment Think about the way you're saying certain things. Think about the way that you're trying to approach someone. When you're trying to attain a certain goal or objective, how do I navigate those waters properly and get the end result, without damaging or demoralizing or denigrating someone or a situation.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I had to listen to these old cats, man, and man, I'm telling you, man, they some of my best allies, man, because um, like my brother Burnett said, man, when you raised with a single mom and you don't know how to really trust men because you ain't had that male in your life that help you understand what love and manly love is about, and security and taking care of that nourishing process.
Mm-hmm.
You don't trust really no dudes. And when I was going through college, man, it was a couple of elders, man, brothers that really seen the gem inside of me that I really didn't see in myself. And it took so long for me to get acclimated to their love, man.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I try to teach the young brothers. You trust, understanding, knowledge, wisdom, connectivity. A lot of that comes with relationship building. And the only way you can really build it if you can take time just to listen. And pull the pieces that work for you and add that to your life. So I had to learn to really how to listen. And that was one of the major things. Listen to these old cats, man. Man, boy, I was a wild boy.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I wanna address like two things that was said. One about coding, if you will, or language, and those men that were instrumental in our lives. So when coronavirus was happening, we had a whole lot of time to reflect, and I did a lot of reflection during that period of time, and I just thought about some of the, if you will, actually not only some of the, but the first black man that had a major impact on my life, and that first black man was named Kevin Lewis, and I really admonish you all to rethink about those gentlemen in your life that came in, that were there to show you something that you never knew. Kevin Lewis showed me a craft that sticks with me to this very, very day. And anytime I want to go back to that craft, at any time, I can do it if I want to. If all else fails, I can always play the drums. Kevin Lewis taught me how to play the drums, and that was my go-to for many, many years. It still is a huge part of my life to this day. But he took the time to show me how to break down a drum set, how to put it together, things my own father didn't even show me. He didn't have the knowledge, but Kevin Lewis was there to really show me some things. And I called him up, man. I called him during the summer, and it was out of nowhere. I was like, yo, Kevin, I just want to let you know, man, I appreciate your patience. I appreciate you showing me how to play, but not only showing me how to play, but how to set the drum set up anytime I had a gig. He showed me how to pack them into the car, things, small instances like that. And so now when I grow up and I'm doing an engagement or something like that, and I pack up the drums, people say, hey, man, can I help? And from a little boy, Kevin Lewis, he helped me, but he stopped helping me at a point when I got old enough and strong enough to pick up the heavy drum set and load them up in the car on my own. And so older guys be like, yo, could I help? And I'm like, no, I'm good. I've been doing this for so long that I don't need any help. I don't even want any help because I've been conditioned to put it up and load it in the car myself. Just that one skill alone has really, really inspired me and helped me to show younger men, younger boys on how to do simple things and to not neglect the intricate aspects of if you will, processing, building things, picking up things, putting things together, taking things apart, making sure it's straight, making sure it sounds good, all the in and outs of different things. The coding aspect, when Joe Buchanan talked about that led me to think about the language that we all share, the language that was shared on that ship from Gambia all the way to the United States during the Middle Passage. They were chained up on that boat, and these guys said, yo, teach them the Mandinka language. teach them every Hausa, every Fulani tribe, teach them the language. And when they had the same language, they came together in great unity that they were able to defeat the opposition only but for a certain amount of time on that boat. But it taught me something at that instance, that if Black people united more and more, and we learned the same language and we had our code, we can actually do more now than we ever have before, because of that great unity, because of that power of that language, that common language we share.
Absolutely.
I
Thank you.
like that.
That's good. That's good.
Is it okay to jump in here?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I guess I want to talk a little bit about, if I had any words, because it made me think about some things when Donald brought that up. Acquiring skill. So I would encourage, young Black men to acquire a skill, because like Donald, I acquired a skill that I can always go back to, no matter what, no matter how old, as long as, I have my mind, I have the skill to be able to play the piano. So a lot of times as young, Black men, we're taught, you need to, go to college to specialize in an area. And I'm not discrediting that or speaking against that. But what I will say, learn how to work on cars, learn how to put up drywall, learn a skill, because those are things that I think are very important. And sometimes when we were westernized, I say we lean more toward, I have to go to college so that I can, work in a bank, and that's all fine. But at the end of the day, if you can do something with your hands, you always have, are able to, have that income. And then the other piece, and that's about the coding language and leading to unity. And the thing is, I would say we already have those nonverbal cues that we use as, African American men and African American people, whereas it's just about bringing it together at this point, because I can go anywhere in the United States of America, and it'll be a certain look when there's something said in a room. And if me and one other Black person, are there, we can kind of give each other a look, and we don't even have to communicate to understand what's going on. So if we use that power of those nonverbals, we could really change and overthrow, like Don was talking about on the ship prior to them taking back over again. So that's what I had.
Absolutely. I want to go back a little bit. Stephen, you said something earlier, and I think this is very important. All of what you're saying is important, but the anger piece. I know a couple of you said you were products of single family homes. How do we instruct? How did you all deal with that anger piece? Because we see that starting from a very young age, of young Black boys dealing with anger, and it even going into their adulthood. And it's even, there are some men that are still struggling with that anger at 60, at 70, at 80. Help us out, please.
Man, let me get into that. Steve, let me jump in real quick.
You got it, King.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
He ready.
I appreciate
He was sitting on the edge, ready for that one
right there. I gotta go in. Man, let me tell you, I'm 47 years old, and you know how many times I fight not to rip the fur off, boy, even at the job.
Absolutely.
Because they're trying to take advantage of your intellect. They're trying to take advantage of your power. They want to demoralize you, right? You're nothing. You're invisible, right? And it's a constant struggle for you to be acknowledged. And it's difficult. It's difficult. And I would say the one thing that I had to master was patience. And I got shout out to the Black Queen. Shout out to the Black Queen out there, man. Black Queen that's holding us down, looking out for us, massaging our back when the fire and the hair is coming out, baby. And you ready to, you sure you want to skin them alive. And you have to align yourself with individuals, principles, and energy that keeps you focused. How do you manage and deal with that anger? It's a knowledge and understanding of the opposition. I tell so many young brothers, man, it's that classic, it's not checkers, it's chess. It's about movement. It's about where you are. You got to know when you get to a certain level how you have to help de-escalate yourself. You have to step back. You have to remove yourself out of the situation so you won't come out of character. You know, what is my character? I have to analyze and know what that is. You know, so I don't want to take the show, man, but I'm telling you, it's a constant battle in dealing with that anger piece. And the only way that you get into the mastery of it is iron sharpens iron. You can't test that unless you're in the heat of it. You know, that's the only way. And I'm really thankful to God that He has placed some strong brothers in my space. But man, Ashe, Donald, man, Ashe, baby. You gave love to that brother that gave you that pathway. You feel me? That gave you that one tool, that one skill, man. And I think of all the brothers that, like I said, them elders, man. I said the old cats, but those elders, man, you know, that was patient enough to put their hands around me, you know what I'm saying, and try to show me a different way because they knew that fire was inside. Man, I was a rival, man. Like, man, why can't this group be called the Black Excellence Male whatever? Why can't be called this when you know Black men need this? Why did it has to be masked a certain way? And we know the population that we're supposed to be serving. You know, those type of academia fires, then personal fires, then professional fires, and then just from a societal perspective, those type of fires that occur all the time where you're in constant turmoil and battle within yourself are the right way to engage that situation. And like I said, the patience, man. There's patience for yourself and patience for the people, the young brothers that you're trying to help. When they feel like you be ready to give up, and you like, I can't give up on this brother. I can't give up on this sister. I can't give up on them. So it's the patience that helps with that anger.
Okay. Thank you.
I mean, that was a lot there, brother. So emotional intelligence is what it is. And I think we have to really name it. And emotional intelligence, when it's named and worked on early, is going to allow us to navigate the boardroom and the block. So when I think back, so we're going to give honor to Queens. I want to definitely lift up my mom. My mom said to me when I was about 12, 13 years old, if you want to see your future, show me your friends. So a critical part around navigating anger, because we're all going to go through it, is making sure that you have the right people around you. And when I look back on my life, I recognize that even though my father was not in my life, most of my friends had very solid male figures in their home. So I got the residual effect of that love and that learning and that modeling. And that does happen. So some of us get it through coaches. I also saw that in my high school track and field coach, watching him court his wife, right? Lovingly, respectfully, as a God-fearing man. And while I'm watching that, I still have to unlearn some of the things that are going through my mind around manhood and courting, because there's still locker room conversation. There's all of that. So I think that the anger piece is really just understanding how to get to your emotional intelligence, because if it's not managed, it's going to impact our relationship with women. It's going to impact our relationship with our friends and family. And it's ultimately going to have an impact on our careers.
So what is emotional intelligence for those that don't?
Yeah, Donald, drop that. That's right, brother.
I just bought it literally last week and had to get it. This is I knew that we were going to have this conversation.
And Nika, before you move on, I just wanted to piggyback on what they were saying. Another thing that I had to do, since I'm somebody who came up with a single mother as well, I had to stop making excuses for myself. I was that kid who was always I'm this way because I didn't have a father in my home, and I had to stop that, and I had to get to a point where I almost learned from my father in reverse. What he wasn't doing for me is the exact opposite of what I was going to do for my wife and kids. I was going to be there for them. I was going to be their support system. I was going to be their leader in the home. Exactly what he wasn't is what I became. So that's something important that I had to do. I had to stop making excuses, and that's what I tell a lot of young men who say, I just don't have that figure in the home. I tell them I'm here. We have other people around us that's here. So you have to, first of all, stop making excuses for the behaviors that you're displaying, and pay attention to what's in front of you, so you can move in that right direction. So I mean, Steve and Anthony, man, you guys are hitting the dead on the head, brother.
Yeah.
Um,
So, Stephen, explain what emotional intelligence is, and then Donna, you can take it.
It's literally just managing your emotions. When you hear that, it's also known as EQ. So you will hear IQ to talk about your intellectual intelligence. EQ is around your emotional intelligence. So what do you do when somebody is getting ready to, get you off kilter? And I just want to just throw something in there really quickly. Like when we have wellness mentoring circles with men and boys and women in our community, and we're going into schools, right? One of the things that we teach our young people to do is what we call Sankofa breathing, right? Literally being still, centering, meditating, making that a normal part of your practice, so that when you do get to a point, it's nothing more beautiful than a young person to say, yo, Mr. Steve, so-and-so was stressing me out, and I just went into my Sankofa breathing, right? Sankofa, that's literally just managing your stress, managing how you're going to respond, managing how to be responsive and not reactive, right? Being reactive might land you in jail. Being responsive means you're taking a pause to measure what the consequences are going to be of your action.
Absolutely.
So it's a journey. There's always somebody who can push those buttons. Like, nobody's a master at it. I think that this is something that we do on a regular basis to make it a part of our practice. And when we talk about manhood, right, we're all loving fathers, leading homes, leading faith communities. The consequences are different.
Right.
If I flip somebody off and I'm a father of 2 daughters and a husband of 17 years, what are the consequences going to be of that? Right. So manhood means that I've removed myself from boyhood, and I now have to think like a man and understand all the consequences and responsibilities that come with that, including managing, resolving conflict.
Wow.
Yeah.
Donald.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Joe.
No, I was just gonna just talk a bit about like the emotional intelligence piece, because I've always heard the term and I understood what it was, but I never took the time to look it up. So like I just quickly like Googled. It says the capacity to be aware of, control, and express one's emotions, and to handle interpersonal relationships judiciously and empathetically. So when I looked that up, it's very telling. Like Stephen put it plainly. Controlling your emotions, and I really like that piece. And I guess one of the ways that we could ask to young men growing up is, how do you do that? So one thing I would say is this: have conversations with like men, right? And to me, like, this is therapeutic, because when I'm on Zoom call, I don't see faces that look like ours Monday through Friday. So this is literally therapeutic. And then you have your other piece of therapy. A lot of times, I don't want to say it's frowned upon in the African American community, but I don't think that is something that we do a lot. So that's one of the things that I really like am an advocate of, is like getting some therapy, somebody to talk with through things, because this is about the initial question was about managing anger, right? So I started going to therapy, and one of the things is the therapist is always asking, hey, how do you feel about that? And I find myself saying a lot of times, first beginning, I was like, I don't know how I feel. When she asked me how I felt about things, I would actually, tell her, what I thought rather than how I felt. So knowing the difference between what you think and how you feel is very important as a Black man. So I'll leave it there and just open up for the other brothers.
That's good. That's good stuff, Joe. Thank you.
I am done talking to you all, because you all are just amazing. Got me on fire right now. So I want to address a few things. One, the emotional intelligence again, and also this idea of therapy, because that's key, right? And the reason why it's key is because I felt like in order for anyone to be able to move forward in life, you have to get over some past hurts and some past pains and trauma, pretty much trauma. We need to be honest. 2020 was a very traumatic year for all of us. It started out with Kobe Bryant's death. We were all taken by surprise on that Sunday morning. We looked at our phones and we were literally in disbelief at that minute, for minutes, until we finally look at the news after you may have gotten out of church or wherever, and they confirmed that yes, indeed, it was Kobe Bryant who, and his daughters and some others who died in that helicopter. After that, about 3 weeks later, we had rumors of this coronavirus that was going to come to the United States. And here on February the 14th, 2020, my wife and I up in New York making jokes about it on the train going to Brooklyn and going to Manhattan. We're like, yo, we need to like be careful, don't touch nothing. And the next thing you know, literally, it hits the United States and everything gets shut down. So not only does things get shut down, but we experience a traumatic death of George Floyd and others, the death of Ahmaud Arbery. We experience so many other deaths within the Black community that we've gotten hit by trauma. And in order for us to move forward, we have to take that time to recover from the mental trauma and the emotional trauma that we experienced during 2020 in order for us to move forward with a literal sound mind. And so I myself started taking therapy myself, not because I'm going nuts or because I'm crazy, but there were some issues as a child that I had dealt with, some microaggressions, some egregious acts that was done against me at my white schools that I experienced that have played a role on how I would interact with society. And so how can a Black man reject or expel that anger from his system unless he has had some type of therapy? The biggest hijackers in the world are white people. I'm sorry. You said Sankofa meditation. They didn't hijack that term and called it yoga. They didn't hijack that term and called it everything else. Man, come on. You see what I'm saying? Hijackers, the biggest hijackers. Every invention that was done in the United States has been hijacked by a white person. And so how can you not be angry about that? How can that we birthed this thing? We created this thing. So the therapy is necessary, and it's a necessary agent for our young Black boys who really do not have those Black male figures in their lives, so that another Black man can come alongside and give them a manly hug and tell him it's gonna be all right, and tell him he's gonna make it. Because see, that's what happened in Roots. When Kunta Kinte snapped that chain off his thing, the man said, all right, come here. He gave him a hug. He said, all right, I want you to be all right. I want you to make it. I want you to make, he didn't try to hold him back, but he gave him a male hug, letting him know it's going to be all right. And of course, he knew in his mind that Kunta Kinte was going to have to come back and was going to get trapped and was going to get, back in slavery. But the idea was that he had that Black man in his corner to say, all right, man, it's going to be all right. And so, we need that in our Black community. As it is with emotional intelligence, I mean, self-awareness, I think, is probably one of the key aspects of this entire thing, because it takes literally a lifetime to understand who we are. And we see that being symbolic in a major theme once again in Roots again, because one of the first scenes is that he lifts up his son and he says, Kunta Kinte. This is his name. It was more than a name. It was a meaning. It was a purpose. It was a staple in the earth, something that would take nations and something that will group nations and birth nations. So from that one seed, we see that a seed was sown into who he was as a man in the earth. And so emotional intelligence has everything to do with self-awareness. One of the aspects of this definition that we did miss is this, and this is really, really, in my opinion, one of the most powerful parts of the definition. The definition of one of the other definitions of emotional intelligence is recognizing understanding and managing your emotions, recognizing, understanding, and influence the emotions of others as well. In practical terms, this means being aware that emotions can drive our behavior and impact people positively and negatively. And I think that's really, really key, because what we do plays a role on our community. The decisions that we make today will play a role on what happens in the future for our own community. So I think that self-awareness and our power, our inner power to influence and impact other people as well is key to understanding emotional intelligence.
We don't want to miss that point on what Don said about hijacking the truth. Like that is such a big piece to all of this, because the greatest fear is our awakening. The greatest fear is
Yes.
us doing what we're doing right now, collaborating, reimagining what our HBCUs and Black institutions do, because there's been a negative narrative around those very things. So we have to, on a level, we have to operate like we've never operated before, because our young people are getting information like we've never gotten before. Right. When I think about going to college, I went to college with a Smith Corona word processor, boom box, no internet, no cell phone, an answer machine you put in your room. But young people can get news like nothing, right? But the downside of that is that trauma becomes normalized. What happens when you hear Trayvon Martin one week and Tamir Rice and Oscar Grant, like that starts to wear on your spirit. So I think, Donna, what you said about the hijacking of the truth is so important, but just Don, and I think Joe mentioned it, like just being okay with asking for help on anything, right? I mean, whether it's our finances, whether it's trying to get ourselves together emotionally, going through therapy. I know not having a father in my household, when I decided I was going to select my bride now, who's been my bride of 17 years, I didn't know how to do that. So we got premarital counseling. Right. And it's because I didn't have that in my household, a model. And in my wife's household, she was a product of a divorce. So and I think Armand said this earlier, like we're all the authors of our future, whether we want to believe it or not. And when we connect with brothers like this, and when we connect with sisters, then we have co-authors to our future, but we can rewrite our future. But asking for help is so, so critical.
Yeah. I want to kind of jump in here and just talk about, like, I love what, Donald and Stephen have both just mentioned. So one piece that I want to talk about, Donald, when you talked about, you're going to therapy, there's like an unconscious stigma that is in our minds. And I even do it sometimes, because sometimes I tell people I'm in therapy. You said I'm in therapy, but I'm not going nuts or nothing. That shouldn't be like a disclaimer that you have to give when you say I'm in therapy, because I do it myself. So if you ever go to a doctor's for a checkup, you don't say, I'm going to the doctor's today, I'm not sick enough. You don't do that, So like with therapy, it should be that same thing. And I'm working on that myself. So that's the stigma that I was kind of addressing when I first talked about the therapy piece. Is just like, we don't have to give disclaimers, because that's your mental health that you're working on. Just like, you go to the gym and work on your physical health. The second piece I wanted to kind of talk about was trauma being normalized, that Stephen talked about. And that's a piece that we do have to talk about. It's not normal it should not be normal for us to see, Black men killed the way that we do. Right. And just at being able to, like, dig in and talk about what that does to us, right? I never saw the George Floyd video. I don't watch those. So, and I'm not saying that in a way kind of look down on anybody, but I just don't watch those things, because I believe in, like, trying to protect as best as I can my eye gate, my ear gate, and what I say, right? So I didn't watch the video, but I saw that, trauma that it has when you see different people's Facebook posts, when you hear different conversations. And one, I guess, takeaway that I would like to give to maybe the younger generation, I know my son's watching right now, is Stephen was talking about the instant gratification of, like, getting the news right away. Read more than headlines when you, as a young person, because you'll see a lot of times on your Facebook feeds, somebody post something with a headline that has nothing to do with the article. And when you read the article, you're like, oh, well, they just kind of got you debate. You posted it and you done made a caption about something when you didn't even dig into the context. So yes, we have instant access to the information, but actually read more than the headline to the information we have access to.
Absolutely.
I wanted to chime in on what my brother Joe just was presenting of, as far as protecting that eye gate and that ear gate. And I'm not as reluctant to be able to do that, because man, my sons, man, they be watching all kind of stuff. You know, you try to block everything, family. You know, and when I seen brother Floyd, man, that video, I had to watch that so that I could strip the pieces away and reconstruct the pieces, and then talk with my boys on what they saw. And with a lot of these things, whether it's a music video, whether it's a commercial, whether it's some advertisement, I'm getting them to connect to their higher realm of self, the higher self, the intellectual self, when they're seeing certain things. And I try best, because even my wife be like, "Did you see that video?" I'm like, nah, I ain't see that, and I don't want to see it. But I find that I have to dip into the pool here and there, so that I could be right there at the front line with them with what they're watching. You know, we talked about that our young people, in particular, the young brothers, have access to, you know, technology, and they're seeing a lot of stuff at a faster pace than we're exposing ourselves to. You know, every day there's a new social media platform. You know, this is old, now this is a new thing. I'm like, what are you on now? Yeah, Dad, it's this. I'm like, yeah, what's on it? You know, and it's really having this gloves off approach and working with our young people, in particular, speaking about the young men, having a gloves off approach where you kind of have to dip into that pool of uncertainty and things that you wouldn't normally engage in, so that you can connect with them, because they, you know, things are ever changing. You know, you reaching the young brothers, man, and dealing in that intellectual space.
Yes.
It's such a daunting task, because so much in society has dumbed them down, where they don't even try to reach to a higher level. And I'm not speaking that every young brother is like this. I'm going to use them in a more macro perspective. From a more global perspective, so many things just dumb down the experience that it never engages the young man to want to really think above the baseline. And I really try to help them to try to think above that baseline, because the world wants to keep you at the baseline, and your brilliance resides higher than that. But the world is trying to keep you at that baseline where, you know, it goes into the way that you communicate. The way I even teach them, when you're texting like you writing the English paper. You know, because what's happening is that the texting goes into the formal construct of the paper, and then the instructor believes that, oh, you're subpar and you're higher than subpar. You know, so it's really trying to help the young brother think above the baseline. And, you know, like my brother Joe said, you know, I try to as well, family. I try to keep certain things out of my psyche, but then I know I have to dip into it because of my warriors, and trying to stay connected to what they're connected to, so they keep that vibration above the baseline.
Got it. Your thoughts, responses, any more lessons, any more reflections?
I just want to add to something Anthony said on elevating expectations, and going back to your point earlier, Ganika, about conflict. I remember walking into a school in Brooklyn, one of our sites in Brooklyn, in Brownsville last year, in 2019, and I saw one of our students getting into it with the school resource officer. And when the student saw me, the student said, "Hey, what's up, Mr. Steve? How's everything going?" And I said, "Well, wait a minute. Like, why were you able to like shift out of that conflict and, you know, show me respect?" And the response from the student was, "Because you have a higher expectation of me." So what Brother Anthony just said is so critical. And I think that when I look at all of the brilliance of all of the men on here, I'm naturally going to have a bias towards mentoring. What I also see is that we're not present enough in the school system, where our young people are being demonized on a regular basis, going far back even as kindergarten. I would go into my daughter's kindergarten class, and there was one black kid in there, and he was always in the corner. And I said to the teacher, why is he in the corner? Well, he's acting out. I'm like, well, no, he's being a boy. Look at the other little boys who are white. They're doing boy things.
Right.
And so a part of this, there's a couple of things here. Number one, when black men show up in schools, it already helps to shape the school culture, because now there's another level of accountability and questioning that's going to happen. But there's also education that needs to happen to those people in those instances that are educating our kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
Joe, you mentioned it earlier. We talked about normalizing trauma. If I live in Chicago, if I'm in Baltimore, listen, we could blindfold anybody in here right now and put you in any city, in any hood. It's the same pain.
Right.
So put the zip code aside. Trauma is trauma. And if you got young people who could tell you in a school, I got more funeral programs than books, something is wrong, right? But what happens is that child acts out and we go, oh man, he's a demon. He's and then they go down a different track. So those kids get tracked, and those kids end up in the system, because the founder of my organization is Susan Taylor, L. Taylor, former editor-in-chief of Essence Magazine. She said something to me about 7 years ago when I was dealing with a certain situation. And she said, you got to see people for their wounds and not their behaviors. So when you see people for their wounds, you recognize that we're all carrying something. And one of the biggest gifts that we can bring to one another as black men, whether it's to our women or to each other, is to recognize that we're all assets. No matter what we're going through, we are all assets. We're in a world where we're always constantly deficit framed, right? So-and-so is at risk. This person did this. I grew up in a certain circumstance in a certain zip code without my father. So the powers that be would have labeled me at risk just based on those circumstances. But because I had loving figures, just like these brothers on here, my takeaway was those men looked at me as at promise and not at risk. Big difference. Big difference. They were pouring in. They were constantly pouring in. It didn't mean that it was easy. It didn't mean that it was seamless. But the language that we use to describe our children is so critical, because if a white police officer hears the term at risk every day, he's not going into a community to police. He's going into a community to hunt. And it's a different thing, because he's not even going to see our kids like his own.
Wow.
I think there's so much, that a lot of the brothers have said. I want to go back to one thing that I think Anthony said at the beginning. He talked about, I'm paraphrasing, he said, listening upline and downline. So downstream and upstream listening. So like being able to listen to a mentor, but also listening to a mentee. And I would, say being able to learn from mentors as well as your mentees. And I guess I would use it in that same context, being able to have religion, whatever your religion is, or if your spiritual beliefs, having that as, your foundation, right? But then outside of that, being able to read books outside of your religion, because a lot of times, I grew up, Christian, Baptist, a lot of the things that, will be said as, you need to go to the word. And yes, it's great to go to the word, but sometimes you have to go to some, maybe some self-help books that will kind of give you principles. So like there was a great read that I read, the 4 Agreements, right? So, and it's based off of a lot of things like biblical principles that are in the 4 Agreements. I would argue that, there are a lot of biblical principles in the 4 Agreements. So like, be impeccable with your word, right? So you're talking about that. And then, you also have, don't take it personal, don't assume, and always do your best. So those are the 4 agreements, and those things, they relate spiritually. So being able to kind of build that bridge between your spirituality, the foundation, but also, getting, drawing parallels between that and like secular tools that we have, and using that kind of, just like build your house, if you will.
Right.
I would definitely agree. Are we done yet, Granika?
I was about to wrap it up, but go ahead.
I'll take maybe 30 to 45 seconds. Maybe this will be the last thing I say. But I think it's imperative. I agree with you as well, Stephen. I think it's imperative, Anthony, Armand, Joe. I think it's imperative that all or most Black brothers that can get somewhere into the school system.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Not only does it change the perspective on young Black boys when they see a Black male in the school system, but it changes the atmosphere. It changes the entire environment. It changes behaviors. It gives more security. It does so many things. It literally enhances the education or academic experience young Black boys and Black girls have on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think of maybe perhaps where you may have gone to school between the 3rd and 4th grade, you may notice that you may not have seen a man there unless he was perhaps maybe a part of the maintenance staff or something like that. But seeing a male maybe do something, maybe a nonprofit, or actually teaching a class, or maybe even being a teacher's assistant or doing some substitute, not only, or rather maybe in addition to coaching, that Black male presence in the school can change everything for a young Black boy that could literally save him from matriculating into the penal system in the United States of America.
Indeed. Any last thoughts?
I just wanted to say that we've heard that term 6 degrees of separation.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I'm gonna tell you, we definitely need to be in the schools, but you can walk right out your door and it's 6 degrees of inspiration right there.
Mm.
The young brother next door to your house. You know what I'm saying? I got a young brother, man. His father passed away prior to them signing for their house. You know, and you could see his wayward thinking and his disconnect right now because his dad not there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he's challenged by the world. He's challenged by peer pressure, all of those particular things. You're within 6 degrees of inspiring someone to be in a better place in their lives. And a lot of times we just have to step outside ourselves and connect.
Yes.
You know, so I connect with these brothers, man. I connect, speaking. I don't got to be in your business, but I just want you to know that I care. And that's how they know you care. Consistently speaking to them, consistently have a great day, consistently, I'm here if you need to build, and we definitely had to have a presence in that school.
Yes.
You're right, brothers. I'm telling you, boy, when we walk up in that door, it's a different situation.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to tell you, those A's, those APs, the principals, they be like, man, thank you. Like, can you come over here? And, you automatically put the work because it's an automatic that Black men are needed, not as some security presence, but as that presence of inspiring and wanting to assist and wanting to guide and wanting to just help nourish and build that foundation. So that's what I want to end with, man. I'm just very honored, like I said, Garnika, that you asked me to be on this platform with these brothers, man. Y'all give me life, love, and just prosperity, man. I'm honored by y'all and all the other videos that you did, sister. Just listen to these brothers, man. Man, if you ever need me, man, just hit me up, family. And let's stay connected beyond this platform, brothers, because we need one another. Because like you said, when you're on that when you're on that Zoom call, you see you're only one on there, you like, man, I need something else, and I need that plug-in. Right. And this is the type of plug-in that we need. So love y'all, brothers.
Thank you.
Self-care. I got to throw self-care in there. I mean,
yes.
I know y'all. I know it's in your DNA. Y'all keep your capes on. So do you, Sister Williams.
Yeah.
We can't pour from an empty cup, and we cannot heal what's hurting our community until we heal what's hurting ourselves. So self-care, and much love to you all, and gratitude to you, my Bison sister.
No problem.
Thank you for the invitation.
No problem.
Just want to say
I appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Oh, go ahead, Joe. Go ahead, Joe.
Y'all.
Okay. No, I just want to say thank you to Garnika for having me on, and thank you to the brothers, man, for this conversation. I learned a lot, and I took notes, so like I learned, and one of the things, so that's one of the things is to encourage us to start taking notes, start journaling, and start like kind of doing those types of things. So that's all I have. Thank you so much. It was great. It was a pleasure being on here with you all.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm always known as a person that's speaking as a coach or whatnot, but I've always said to the point that the encourager always needs encouraging sometimes. So you brothers encouraged me on today, And I appreciate the love and everything you all spread on today. So thank you all so much. Thank you so much, Renika.
No problem.
Hey, man, I just want to thank you all, man. I love you all. I learned so much and enjoyed you all. Really, really inspired and really motivated to even do more, man. So thank you for you being you. Thank you for your story. Thank you for your history. Thank you for you being here today, man. And Nika, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Gentlemen, that is our time. Before we go, can you let listeners know how they can connect with you on any socials? Well, Stephen, you can start.
On Twitter, I am Mr. Mentor Steve. On IG, I am Mr. Mentor Tane Steve. I'm on LinkedIn and I'm also on Facebook.
Awesome. Anyone else? Donald?
Twitter, you can my handle is capital A, capital D, capital B. That's for Burnett 06. That's for my Alpha brothers. So that's AD Burnett 06 on Twitter and Armand Burnett on Facebook.
Okay. Hey, I'm Vision Carrier 2020 on Instagram, and if you want to go to my website, it's www.themiraclecenterintl.org.
On Facebook, I am Joe Buck, just the first 3 letters of my last name. So that's where I am on Facebook, and then on Instagram, I'm Joe Buck 14, JOEBUC 14. And since you all did it, I'll just have to do it. Root to the brush.
All love.
My Facebook handle is just as it is on the screen, Anthony King T Elaine. On Instagram is King T the Jeweler, because I'm one of my businesses. I create natural stone jewelry. So I have my lovely bracelets I already have on. Got some kyanite on today. So if you want a custom build piece, I'm big into the metaphysics, the chakras. And again, that helped me with trying to diminish that fire.
Gentlemen, thank you for allowing me to showcase your stories, for doing your part in changing the narrative, and lastly, for keeping your commitment by being a part of the show. That means a lot. Black men, we count on you. If you've enjoyed the show, please let us know. We would love to shout you out and post your comments. If you or someone you know is changing the narrative, please contact us at iChangeTheNarrative@gmail.com. We would love to share your story. Meet us here Saturday, April 3rd at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as we begin season 2 of I Change the Narrative. Again, gentlemen, please stay on afterwards, as I would love to, shout you out again. And we thank you guys again for being on the show. Audience members, thank you for joining us in season 1. We look forward to next season. Thank you.